gotta put this on the floor or else. Buzz.
Ooh. Buzzed in the butt.
Now, when I do the intro, are you gonna talk over me?
I'm muted.
Are you gonna be muted?
Yes.
And then what? Do I have to unmute you?
Yeah.
Huh?
Manually muted.
Good.
I'd have to hold you hostage at the beginning.
It sounds like get on with it.
Just like this. Go.
Welcome to the Higher Energy Superpower. This is episode 31 of the Turbo Duo Cast. I am your host, Salvatore Mata, and to my left is my brother from another game show lover. He is the oral assassin. He puts the ass in classic gaming. It's Trenton E. Wright III, Esquire. So nice, they named him twice.
Just like New York, right?
Yeah, well, better than New York.
Oh. Well, everything's better
Although
than
they
New
say
York.
New York is coming back. We'll see.
Oh. So are snap bracelets.
That's only in your own head. And then also returning is Turbo Duo and a half. It is Salvatore, superstar soccer, now superstar basketball.
He
Mata,
is the modern miracle.
in the building with the Miles Morales shirt special.
Target time.
Oh, the Miles Morales modern miracle Mata.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, let me unmute. Hey, we're muting Sal because he keeps interrupting at the beginning of the podcast, but here we go. Ready? All right, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you.
What were you going to say?
I was gonna say nothing. I just wanted you to unmute me.
Oh, okay.
Even if you said something, it would have
You
been
just want
nothing.
the freedom and the ability to open your mouth. Well, last year, guys, we did a...
Last year?
Yeah, last year. We did an interview, which, went over pretty well. We enjoyed our conversation with Mr. Jeffrey Johnson from Wave 1 Games talking about some Jaguar stuff. And we thought it'd be nice to do an interview again. A lot of you guys enjoyed that podcast. So
Allegedly.
Mm-hmm. So what we're going to be doing today is actually a conversation a little bit different. This is going to be with Marcelo, aka CrossFace Gaming on TikTok. And, there's a lot of people out there, even though you might not have somebody locally that you work with that can mod systems or clean systems or repair systems. There are plenty of people online. If you get into the forums or you get into the community to find people who can do some things for you to make your setup a little bit more user friendly for the modern television screen / game room that you have. And Marcelo's one of these gentlemen. And Trenton, you found Marcelo, I believe, on the Atari Age forums, if that's correct. With the
it was actually on the dark web of retro gaming.
Where's that?
The underbelly of the internet.
Wow. I don't even know. Do we want to go here, or is this PG rated, or?
Well, you have to have a Hewlett Packard, and you have to use your dial-up modem to get onto this dark web of the retro gaming internet.
Yeah. How long does it take for you to get to where you're trying to go?
About 7 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, but when you're
as
there,
long as nobody picks up the phone.
Yeah. But when you're there, you're there.
You're there. It's a state of mind.
It was actually. Well, you were close. It was on the one of the Atari Jaguar Facebook groups.
Oh, Atari Jaguar Facebook. Okay.
He was selling the memory track for the Jaguar, like the Saturn RAM cart, or like the Sega CD backup cart.
Oh, okay.
Like it's that for the Jaguar CD.
It's for the Jaguar CD.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was selling one of those, and I bought it from him, and then one thing led to another. He's fixing games. We're sending him packages.
I see how it develops. So we thought it would be fun to maybe have a conversation with Marcelo and learn a little bit about that world. And
he's he's the one man band man of repairing consoles. He's got his little magnifying glass on his eye, and he's he's in there with the soldering irons and all the wires.
Now this is the gentleman that actually tried to fix your Atari cartridge. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay.
Unsuccessful, but he did his best.
Yep. There's a couple people I've seen on YouTube that repair things like that. There's a lot of flux involved, and a lot of
capacitors,
a lot of solder involved.
Capping again.
All of that, and that's a world that I do want to learn a little bit more about. I'm kind of like that kid on top of the the diving board. Like I'm gonna go, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna go, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna go, I'm not gonna go. So I think it'll be interesting and maybe give me the push to get involved into the soldering game too, for my own self, which would be nice to get some courage for. So we're gonna be chatting with him a little bit later in the podcast, and we're gonna open it up with what's new, guys.
We're gonna open the forum.
The plan.
We're gonna open it up. Yeah.
We were gonna tell you the plan. So
It's called What You Been Playing, player.
Yeah.
So we.
What you been playing? What are some things that are going on in the world of gaming? What are you playing right now?
What am I playing?
What's new?
What
What's new in the world of Salvatore and video games that's retro related?
See, the thing you were
You can't talk about Minecraft. We can't.
What do you mean retro related?
Meaning a game that came out during
Modern time.
Daddy and Uncle Trenton's time.
Oh.
They're still making games today. It might be something that's right in front of you
that you were just playing.
that you were just playing.
You're not serious, right?
What pickup do you want to talk about?
I think he's broke. Hello?
Did they break you? Did I put you on mute? Do I have to unmute you again?
Oh.
He needs batteries. You want
All right.
you want to try it again?
So Sal, wait, let's start. So Sal,
Hey,
Yes.
what's a new game that's a retro type game that you've been playing?
it's a new old new game.
Yeah.
Super Street Fighter 4.
For the 3DS.
I was struggling there for a second. I thought he's gonna forget again.
Yeah, and this is the 3D edition.
And that's the one that released with the 3DS, right? That's the launch title game.
That's a good question. If I can,
I'm almost positive
if I can peel back the onion layers here.
the onion
see-
layers. Don't
see-
cry.
Yeah, see what the
Or you could just open the case and slip the cover out so you can see it.
2011. You're right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like a launch game.
Okay.
Because I actually remember when the 3DS came out. I remember that was like the game they had set up on the kiosk with the 3DS at like GameStop.
I'll tell you what. It still looks good now.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not the biggest Street Fighter 4 fan. I feel like it's a little loose.
does
It's
it
a
have a little?
loose.
Okay,
It's
I
really
got you.
it's really good, but it's just because of the transition to 3D. I think it plays a little bit. There's a little bit of
Yeah,
it's not as tight as like a Genesis or a Super Nintendo
yeah.
style.
Yeah, the
Street Fighter game.
3DS took a little while for people to really latch onto. It was really. I just remember at like all the gaming sites were saying that like sales for it were like really slow at the beginning.
Well, it was really expensive too. Didn't it start out at like $300?
I don't know, 11 years ago. Yeah, I don't. It probably was.
It's crazy.
And
to
I don't
think
think
that's
there
been
was
11 years.
there maybe not have been like some really like top notch games or where it's kind of hard to. It's that thing that's like you can't really promote like the 3D effect unless you actually play it
Can see
yourself because
yeah.
you can't like show it in a magazine or like in
Yeah.
pictures. It doesn't. It's like a thing you have to like actually play
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, it's like bringing somebody to Christ or being a father. It's like you can't really teach somebody like that, right?
Yeah.
You like how I slipped that in there? You can't really teach somebody like that unless you see the effect. Same thing with
Yeah, they get parallels.
with the 3DS is unless you're seeing the 3D in motion.
It doesn't mean you have to play it right now though.
No, it doesn't mean you have to play it right now. But the thing I like about this version of the game, especially when we got into it, was that I think it's a great, and I always look for opportunities for my little guy to kind of get into video games and find ways that he can kind of ease his way in. And this actually has multiple difficulties on it, so you can start out where the enemies are very minorly attacking you, but then you can kind of ramp it up to something a little bit more
Very minor.
a little bit more demanding. So he's beaten it on easiest, as we were talking about before we started recording.
the training mode.
Yeah, it's more like a training mode, but kids need that confidence to continue to get in. So
You do any special moves, dude?
Hadouken or two. He's playing as Cody because he thinks it's Cody Rhodes, but I'm trying
Cody.
to tell him it's Cody from Final Fight. He's not having any of it. So
Oh, he's got blonde hair.
yeah,
So.
he's big blonde guy. So, but yeah, so it's $15 at GameStop. It was complete. So, I thought it was a nice pickup. I personally
Daddy,
wanted
I
to
can't
try it
believe
myself. So, if he had wanted it, I would have said no. But I wanted to check it out because I've always wanted to try Street Fighter 4 ever since Street Fighter 5 came out, which I didn't enjoy just because of the way that progression was. You couldn't play versus to begin with. Like you couldn't just play.
You have to unlock it, you mean?
I don't know if it was or they
yeah,
they released a patch later on. I have
Was
no
that
idea.
like a PS3, Xbox 360?
PS5, PS4.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I finally had a chance to try it, but I'll tell you what, I don't really like the 3DS controller for a game like this. I always want to go back to a Genesis controller or even a Super Nintendo controller.
Are you saying the pad or the buttons? The D-pad or joystick or the button or just everything in general?
Everything about it, the way that the spacing is. I still don't know how to do there's like a short punch, a medium punch, and then like a strong punch.
I lost.
Oh, there's like 3 instead of 2.
Well, that's how it is on the Sega. There's like, and even on the Super Nintendo. Remember, you'd use the shoulder buttons to do like the strong punches or the strong kicks. I still don't know how to figure that out on this. But the D-pad's small. It's really shallow too. It's like really close to the shell. So it is what it is. But for what it is, I think it's something that he can play and enjoy. And so that's all I got to say about that. But
yeah, the only experience I have was
huge
playing
character
it on
roster.
Was playing it on the kiosk at GameStop.
Like 11 years ago.
Yeah, like right when it came out. That's the only time I played it.
Wow.
I mean, I remember playing. I was like, well, I mean, Street Fighter. I mean, I don't.
Yeah. I mean,
the 3D effects kind of cool.
Well, think about the context, right? 2011. That's when the PS3 and the Xbox 360 were big, and this game had just come out for that like a couple of years before. So
it technically wasn't like all new game, except for like the 3D mode. I guess, so.
No, but it looks just like it did on the PS3.
Yeah,
so it was like, oh my gosh, like a new style game on this thing, and it performs this well. I don't know if they patched it and it performs better now than it did when it started, but it does a really good job. There's no hitches. It's really smooth. The frame rate's good.
Do they do any bonus stages?
Yes,
anymore?
there are. You actually can toggle whether you want bonus stages on or off.
Okay.
Which is pretty neat. There's also this dynamic view where it kind of, instead of being side to side, it kind of like pulls back a little bit to the right. And so it's almost like
over the shoulder.
Yeah, like you remember Tekken 2 and Tekken 3 where you could do like almost like a first person mode.
Oh,
in those games. I'm not saying it does first person, but it kind of does like this side third person one where it's like you can see like the depth. I think the whole idea was
there's some
to give you that.
There's some mode like that on the Switch, that Street Fighter 2 on the one on the Switch. There's some like first person mode like that where you're supposed to use like motion controls. Remember when we said we weren't going to play the game during the podcast?
Yeah, remember that? Remember when we said that?
What?
The other thing too is that on the bottom screen it has 1, 2, 3, 4, like four square boxes. And instead of hitting the buttons for a kid, if he wants to do it, you can just tap the screen to do the move.
Like a special move? You mean?
Yeah, like a special move.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it is there in case you want to use it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a cop out, but they're making everything easier these days for the kids, Anyways, some of the things that we're playing. So this guy had a movie night at at co-op school yesterday, and so what did Dad do? No. Dad brought his Switch because that's how real G's roll, right?
No.
Anyways, so I said, what's a game I can play for like 30 minutes? I can get through, and so I decided to boot up the Capcom Beat 'em Up collection.
Okay, solid choice.
I've always wanted to get through Captain Commando, and I finally did that.
You done accomplished something.
Played through Captain Commando, and I played as the ninja. I don't know what his name is, but I wanted it to be more like a
you finally crossed that off your list. Captain Commando.
Yeah,
like Steve Buscemi. You're in the corner.
And Billy Madison.
Put lipstick.
Yeah, I did
that.
Well, it was funny because they were wrapping up. They were wrapping up the movie night, and hold on a minute. Let's get this kid back on the.
Hey,
get back on your pillows.
Yes.
There we go. There. They were like wrapping up everything and like putting all the trash away. The lights had turned on. They're like, everybody's got to go, and I'm like, no, I'm on the final boss. I can't. You guys
like,
Yeah, Liz is making fun of me from across the way, telling my husband's playing the Switch. He's the only dad that would bring a Switch to the movie night.
It makes me unique.
Yeah, I was like, that's what makes me better. Anyways, so clear Captain Commando, and I had varied emotions and feelings coming away from this game. I
didn't know Captain Commando could do that to you.
And you know what? Listen, I like to be well connected to my emotionality.
Emotionality, huh?
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Maybe. And you want to stop the podcast right now and look it up?
Kind of.
See if it. My feeling on, I think all.
It's a beat 'em up, dude.
See, you like to distill things down to like just their bare what they are.
That's a long, drawn-out story about Captain Commando.
Well, I keep going back to the fact that like it's not Streets of Rage.
Yeah, I understand.
The thing about these arcade games that Streets of Rage is not an arcade game.
Yeah,
The thing about these arcade games is that they but they don't respect your abilities necessarily. Like you could be hitting a boss, and they'll just or going up to a boss, and they'll just hit you even in the middle of you like.
Yeah, well,
in the middle of a cycle.
They're just trying to. Those games are trying to be flashy and
quarters,
trying to get your
quarters.
trying to get your money. Yeah,
right. So that's the difference, and what I think. That's why I played Streets of Rage first, and I'll never find anything as good. I'm constantly on that search for like the next game that's going to be
constantly.
As good. And I think it's Streets of Rage 4, right? Which I've played a bunch of is fantastic.
I mean, if it's going to be a better Streets of Rage game, it'd have to be
another Streets of Rage game. That's the only way to get better. But see, Final Fight wasn't like that, at least on the Sega CD. I feel like Final Fight did kind of respect your abilities, and if you did a good job, that you could get through that game. It wasn't. I guess the word is cheap, where you get attacked. You're like, how did they attack me in the middle of me, in the middle of my attack sequence? Like I was already hitting them. You just like cut your frames of animation down and just smashed me like you're Akuma.
Like you're Akuma.
But for a game from 1991, like really good effects, like everything about that game, it put me back in like an arcade, just thinking about how that game would appear in 1991. And thinking about the games that were on home consoles, Captain Commando is just like, it's larger than life in a way, What are you showing?
No, I'm not showing anything.
Cool.
I'm trying to.
You're really helping out.
So I enjoyed my time with Captain Commando. I also realized not as fun by yourself, which is par for the course.
Yeah.
Not as fun by yourself. Having a partner playing these Capcom games, these Capcom beat 'em ups, is kind of an essential.
Now, can you slap the controllers off of it and do 2-player?
Yes.
If you unhook the Joy-Cons?
Well, actually, so that's a little bit of a misnomer because I did have Liz playing with me for about all of 37 seconds.
That doesn't count. It's like, meh.
Yeah.
Boring.
Yeah, she died, and then she didn't know she could continue, and so she started talking to a mom about diapers or something. I don't know what it was. It wasn't diapers.
Can you do like the Konami cheat? You can
there's unlimited continues.
Oh, okay.
So I went through the whole
Oh,
thing.
yeah, that's right, because it's an arcade game, so they just give you like unlimited. I gotcha.
You don't even have to put in quarters. It's just like artificial quarters. You can just
you just start and it goes.
hit the continue button.
Ah, I understand now.
So, but lots of fun. We got King of Dragons behind us if it's still playing. Nope, the switch is off. And then the other thing, so we actually had we had brunch with some friends, and they have a Sega Genesis classic system.
What does one eat for brunch these days?
Frittata.
Okay.
Frittata, green salsa and chips, hash browns with a nice sizzle on them, coffee.
The sizzle.
Chocolate chip muffins. No,
that's a heaping helping.
Yeah. Well, you gotta do it right, Back to the Sega Genesis Classic. So my buddy Tony,
Tony.
So what's funny is that Tony actually has modded systems in the past himself.
Okay.
Kind of bringing it back full circle with our topic here.
Is this the original modder?
What do you mean?
I don't know.
Not for me.
Oh, wasn't there someone that you knew before that did, or is that Tony?
No, that was my landlord back in the day.
Okay.
But Tony said that he knows how to solder and he can teach me how to solder. So I feel like, I'm getting pushed into this whole thing. Like it's just meant to be.
I mean, you can do some, dude, it's fairly, to do some smaller stuff, it's fairly easy.
Yeah, I know you said you've done a couple things.
Yeah.
So he modded his Sega Genesis Classic, which I've heard of this before, but I've always been skeptical of because...
Oh, you mean like modding to put games
yes.
Oh, like that kind of modding.
So he actually modded his Sega Genesis Classic because there's a little bit of extra memory on the Genesis Classic where you can add a few more games. So he actually added like Maximum Carnage is on there. Games that he grew up with. He put Road Rash 3 on there. What up, Road Rash 3?
What up?
We were balling out in some Road Rash 3. He put Desert Strike on there.
Well,
you're a Desert Strike fan, right?
Went for the first one, huh?
Yeah. Desert Strike.
Not Jungle Strike,
Not
but
Jungle
Urban
Strike.
Strike.
Yeah, Urban Strike's the 32 meg one or something like that, or isn't there one?
Oh yeah, that was the last one that was the last one they made on the Genesis.
Yeah.
I don't know how many megs. 32, the biggest cart ever.
I don't know. But one of the ones that he put on there, which I'm like, I've never even heard of this game before, was James Bond 007. You heard of this game?
Like James with a B or P?
Bond.
Oh, I think like James Pond.
No, James Bond 007.
Was that I don't think it was a real game then.
It's a real game.
On the Genesis.
Yeah. You know how like we talk about how like we kind of find Genesis games that we've never heard of before? It's just like, that's a real game. Like I never.
Like you looked it up? It's a legit game?
I didn't look it up, but I'm almost positive it is. Look up James Bond 007.
It's probably not gonna be. It's like a repro
meetup.
meetup.
No. It had box art and everything. I'm almost positive it's a real game.
Well, anyway, continue.
So it kind of has a almost like a Rolling Thunder style feel to it, but more zoomed out type of gameplay. And it's a platformer. You got to defuse bombs, and you have to get from the first levels a ship. There it is, right there, right?
Yeah,
James Bond 007.
The Duel.
It's actually the Duel. There we go.
Who is that even on the cover? That's what James Bond is. That just some person they hired?
No. That's the guy who did it for like 1 or 2 movies. I forget what his name is.
Oh,
but he's but the game is actually really I would call it competent, but really colorful. The first stage you're on a like a cruise ship, and you have to save passengers. You have to it's almost like Shinobi or Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, where you have to like find the captives.
It's an odd bunch. He's like, I got Maximum Carnage, Desert Strike, and James Bond.
He was like, he thought it looked cool, and I guess there's a list with this emulator of the games that work the best with it. Mm-hmm. Like he had Hyperstone Heist on there, and he said it works, but there's no sound.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and the thing I was worried about the most was lag coming from like these emulated games that weren't optimized.
Yeah.
No lag whatsoever on any of these games that he put on there. So I was impressed. And it doesn't change the interface of the classic. Like it just adds the games in.
Oh, wow.
So, and then you can swap them out. So you can remove games and add more games on if you want.
Just sounds like a lot of work just to.
Oh, I'm not going to do it.
I know, just to play on like that when.
I'd rather get the real cart and play
other
that.
ways, or I mean,
It's funny though.
It's just like I'm gonna switch games back and forth.
No, I know. But it's.
I mean, it's cool. I'm assuming. What is he? Is there like a USB port on there?
Yeah.
You can connect it to his computer.
The control
and
port.
Get into it or something.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just put the USB port in there and download it or whatever. But it's funny because like we were at basketball this morning for the little guy, and all these guys. They love the 16-bit systems. Like these guys were asking me at basketball, like, what's your system of choice? Like, what's your, I'm like, ugh, this question again, But the truth is, like, I kind of welcome it too, because they're bringing up games that, like, it's not the average person like knows anymore. Like they're like, we want to play. Like I was trying to get my kids to play Madden, but I want to play like Madden 94. I want to play NBA Live 95. I'm like, you're warming my heart right now hearing you talk like this. Like these are guys our age, and they want to get together and do like 4-player battles and stuff. It's like somebody's got to take the kids, but I'm more than happy to ball out. I'll bring my system. I'll bring my 4-player adapter, and we'll
get crazy.
We'll go nuts, right? And NBA Jam is always that was on there too. NBA Jam on his classic, but NBA Jam TE doesn't work. For some reason, it doesn't load up.
Yeah, what's the point then? Can't play NBA Jam if there's NBA Jam TE available.
We played NBA Jam, and I'm like, now I want to play TE because it's just not the same. I don't know if it's just the Genesis versions are not as good as the Jaguar and the 32X, but like the characters seem smaller, and the action doesn't seem as forceful. Like it doesn't, you don't feel the oomph.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they made it quicker or faster in TE than they did in NBA Jam.
No, but I'm saying TE for Genesis versus TE for Jaguar and 32X.
Well, yeah, of course. They're going to be... Yeah, the characters are... Yeah, no, for sure the characters are smaller.
Yeah, but does TE play more like... TE for Genesis play more like NBA Jam for Genesis, or does it play more like TE for 32X?
Oh, I would say it probably plays more like the 32X one.
You think so?
In terms of like speed?
So then it's... Yeah.
Yeah.
And just kind of like...
I'm almost positive that was like one of, like from when they did NBA Jam to TE, that was one of the things that made the gameplay a little bit faster.
Plus, you only get to select 2 characters in the original NBA Jam.
Oh, it does. You can't. There's no more. There's no roster.
There's no roster. It's just 2. Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yep. So, but that was kind of fun. So I discovered a new Genesis game, and I played through the first level, and it was
Now you gotta have it.
Now I kind of want it. It's a lot of fun. You just
Now I want it.
Yeah, well, it's like one of those action platformers. You're unlimited ammo. You're just shooting at guys and
It's not
defusing bombs and getting.
It's not too expensive. Like $40.
Really?
Complete. Yeah.
Okay. We could,
Okay.
he had
All right.
Steel Empire on there too.
Oh, okay.
All hail Steel Empire. It's probably the best game Flying Edge ever put their stamp on.
Yeah, definitely not Double Dragon.
Like, I don't know if that's a Japanese game, but it feels like a Japanese game. It's as good as a Japanese game from that era.
Mm-hmm. In the hunt in the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of. That's kind of what it feels like. So pickups. Let's get into pickups. Trenton, I've been talking a lot. I'm going to take a break. Sip my soda. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
Well, since it's only been a week since the last time we did a show. Actually, I got these two actually the day after. And I'm always perusing on Facebook, and I saw a couple listings. Actually, I saw one listing.
Stay hungry.
Yeah, it wasn't even really. I wasn't even really looking for them, but then I saw them for a decent price. I actually already had the cart for this, but I mean, so the game is Sonic 3D Blast for the Sega Genesis, because that's pretty much the only games we get these days are the Genesis ones. And,
Genesis does.
and it's in the cardboard style box, so obviously those are harder to come by in.
Somebody was
shape.
thoughtful enough to put a plastic.
Yeah, I
case
didn't
on
even
it.
know they put like one of like the Defender cases on it. So I already had the cart. So this was only $20. So and I could end up selling my cart for like $10 or whatever. So I thought it was a pretty solid deal. I want like all the Sonic games, for the Genesis because they're the Sega ones. I've actually
about
never.
this game?
No, I've actually never played it.
So this is
it's like the Saturn. That Saturn version.
This is a Traveler's Tales game. So the guy from Gaming Hut, John Burton.
Who?
John Burton, the one who made Toy Story.
Oh, okay.
The one who does all the special effects in so Sonic 3D Blast is one of them. He did Pugsy.
Oh, okay.
So he's got some. This guy's got some skills.
Yeah, I just like every time I look, I see like the screenshots from it. I just think of like Marble Madness because it's like that same like the layout of the levels. I just think Marble Madness.
So I think the problem with Sonic 3D Blast is just a matter of expectation for people. And if you weren't around or weren't old enough for this when the game came out, Sonic 3D Blast came out at a time where the Sega Saturn was the system for the time period, and everybody was just thirsty for a 3D version of Sonic that was going to be competing with Crash Bandicoot and with Mario 64. And
then they gave you Sonic 3D Blast.
Well, and it wasn't to be. And so Sega commissioned Traveler's Tales to make this Sonic game, and they were able to what is it? Yep, that's Zelda 2. Pretty cool, huh?
The Adventures.
Yeah, Adventures of Link. Anyways, that was really important as a segue. No, so they were making this Sonic 3D game, and they said, well, since we don't have a Sonic game coming out, can we just upport this to the Sega Saturn, add a new bonus stage, and
so the Saturn version is the same as that game, just like upgraded graphics?
Yeah, so they basically did a new soundtrack, a CD soundtrack.
Well, yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, and that was what is his name? Jacques something, I think.
Jacques Cousteau.
He's the guy who did the Sonic CD soundtrack here in the States.
Yeah, all right.
He did. I think he did Sonic R. He's really good. But he did the Sonic 3D Blast soundtrack on Sega Saturn. And this was the original game, so this is the version that was supposed to come out, and then they made the more three-dimensional bonus stage to go with the Sega Saturn port. But this is the one when we think about like the original Sonic 3D Blast. This is the one. I mean, I'm a little envious because I do like this game, and having it complete in the box is awesome. I mean that in a good way.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure how it plays or if it's
great.
Comparable to
great, but here's the thing.
To the Saturn one.
Again,
it's not right. It's not Sonic.
It's a matter of expectation. So this really should be called Flicky 2, not Sonic 3D Blast. And the reason why I say that is people and I'm in a certain camp about Sonic, and I don't mean to go off onto a rant here, but everybody wants Sonic to go fast, and that's not how I ever played Sonic. Sonic to me is an exploration game. Take your time, go fast where you need to go fast, but really kind of explore the levels a bit and kind of dig into them a little bit more. So Sonic 3D Blast kind of scratches that itch for me a little bit, where you're taking your time. There's not a ton of enemies. The whole idea is to defeat enemies and then get the little flickies and then bring them to the goal, which is a ring at the end of the level. And all you're doing is kind of going through the levels, searching out these flickies and bringing them to the end, which is the same goal that you have in the original Flicky game that came out for the Sega Genesis at the onset of the Sega Genesis. So it's a fantastic game if you appreciate it for what it's worth. It has a really cool line scrolling bonus stage if you've ever seen that.
I don't think I have. No. I really don't know much. I really don't know much about
cool,
it.
Really cool. Well, we should hook it up a little bit later and try it out. It's a great game for what it's worth, but you can't compare it to what you think Sonic should have been in 1996.
Yeah,
this is a very, very late Genesis game.
Yeah,
but it's awesome. I'm really glad that you own it now.
And so it was the same person, so I was trying to just find another game to get like a discounted price and kind of cut down on the shipping. So
I don't know anything about this game.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like really great, but it was just, I was trying to look it up, and like there's not very many. You don't come across too many like complete copies of it. It's Defender 2 for the Nintendo.
I've never seen this before.
Which is, Defender, obviously.
I love Defender. Eugene Jarvis. We just talked about.
Yeah. So it's barely basic game. It was just like the only game that she had that.
It's like Crunchy Black. You got to go on side to side.
I was like looking it up, and like a complete copy like never pops up on eBay. So I was like, well, maybe it's just kind of like one of those games.
That's what we call mad rare.
Yeah, it's not rare.
I'm not saying it is. I just wanted to say that. Can you please let me have my moment?
No, that's what I do here. So yeah, I mean, Defender. It's no Jaguar. It's no Jaguar Defender 2000, but what is?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, not too much to say about Defender. I also picked up some more cover arts from Shiggity.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I don't have them with me. I picked up like 4 or 5. I got the Ren and Stimpy because the other one got taken. They have the Super Street Fighter 2 cover art, Techno Cop, and Captain America.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
do you have the cart?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And so I've been,
I didn't even see this before.
Yeah. So I just decided to bust out my DS Lite.
Of course.
I was like, just because I'm doing a toy show. I'm doing a toy show tomorrow, so I was like looking around for either games or stuff to sell, and I found a whole bunch of my Game Boy Advance games that I had forgotten about. Now I know you're probably, I know you're gonna think this game is like an abomination to the lineage.
You were the one who wanted to cover Friday the 13th.
The lineage of the game, and it's not great. It's also not terrible. There's some things that are terrible about it, but most things. For some reason, I keep playing it.
I don't know what it is yet.
And it's Altered Beast for the Game Boy Advance.
Why would I think that's terrible?
Have you ever played it, or do you know anything about it?
I don't know anything about that.
Oh wow.
No. Is it like a bad version of Altered Beast?
It's like, so I'm going.
I gotta try this later.
Yeah, because like I go into it thinking like Altered Beast, and I want to like it so much because it's Altered Beast.
I played Altered Beast at least once a day.
So I guess my review would be how would you say, influenced by just the lineage of Altered Beast and like how much we love the original. So it's like I want to like it so much,
right?
But there's some parts of it are just like dumb. So because it came out for the Game Boy Advance, so like jump is like the shoulder buttons,
and you can't change.
So it's just there's no option to change. You can only they'll only give you a button swap, which would.
I wonder how that would work on my sideways Game Boy Advance with the Intech controller.
Oh, so like I was saying, I was like, I bet the best way to play this game would be on like something like the Retron, because I think you can map the buttons, and you can use a regular. You could just use like a Super Nintendo controller or whatever.
Yep.
And
that's blasphemy. Why would you use a Super Nintendo controller?
What, for the Game Boy Advance?
You use a Genesis controller if it's Altered Beast.
Oh, I mean, I guess so. I'm just saying because the Game Boy Advance only had 2 buttons, so like A and B is punch and kick. so you could probably map another button to jump instead of being the trigger buttons, you know. So just like that's kind of like, so I'm playing it, and to jump I'm with my index finger
awkward
on the left jumping.
Yeah.
So yeah, so some of the hit detection and like your reach of your punches and kicks is a little awkward. But I mean,
how's the hit detection?
It's once you
once you learn
yeah
where it is,
like
you're
if you like Altered Beast and you want to like the game, you'll
make it work.
Yeah. So
I'll work with you, baby.
Yeah. It gets the first 5 levels aren't too bad. Like
first 5 levels.
Oh, there's 15 levels in this game.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many creatures can you be?
I don't know. Well, actually, there's a menu.
Does it have that same splash screen of when you become the beast?
Yeah, it does that. It still does that. So there's I think there's 8. There's a lot. Like each level.
Do you become a fish? That's what I want to know.
Have you become like a shark?
You do. You can become a shark.
But you're like a shark.
I don't know anything about this game. We're gonna talk. There's 15 animals. They gotta have an aquatic.
You're like a shark head though. You're like you have
you're
arms
like on
and legs.
you're on land.
Yeah, you have arms and legs, and you have like a shark head. You know.
You can bite people.
You kind of like dart across.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so like there's 15 stages, and I think each one has a different animal in like each one.
That's cool.
So yeah, the levels are a little long for Altered Beast, but they get punishing because I'll just throw like enemies will just drop down and
it gets to the point where it's just like
I'm stuck on level 6 right now, and
you can save it and then continue.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So. Yeah, I mean, like graphics are pretty solid.
I'm all about playing more 7s. There's wisdom in those 7s. If you think, what would you rate this game?
All right, if I wasn't me,
no.
Oh, so yeah, I would say
6.9.
Oh man, it's like I don't like to do that. I don't like to go like to 6.65.
No, I'm saying like I'm like just at the edge, but not there.
It's like I want to give it a 7, but I also don't want to give it a 7.
Okay, 6.5. 6? Is it a 6?
6.695.
So the answer then is if you're a retro head and you grew up with Altered Beast and games like that, you might like it.
Yeah. It's pretty
Everybody
fun.
else, stay far away.
Yeah. It's like it was a THQ Sega collaboration or whatever.
Ugh.
So yeah, but so you get 3 or you get your little first orb and they get we were having a podcast. Now you're
well, he wants to make Andre the Giant.
Oh, of course, that's what we do. Yeah. Well, we'll just take a timeout to make Andre the Giant on the 3DS.
There we go.
Andre the Giant.
Sick. There we go. Andre the Giant. All right. Go ahead, Trent. You were saying?
We did it. I don't even remember now. Oh, it does have like some callbacks to the original Altered Beast. Like for every when there's like 3 orbs, and that's when you finally get into your the beast mode.
Yeah.
You get the power up. You get the power up. When you and then I think every boss I've got to the end. Did they say like welcome to your doom?
Welcome to your doom.
Yeah. So it's a little rough around the edges, I would say.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I would like to try this out.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's different.
Nice.
I don't know what the best way to play it. I guess you just have to play it on the DS.
On a Game Boy Advance with a backlight.
Okay, yeah. You could try it on there, yeah.
If you can. So, cool. Well, to bring us home before the commercial break, the manly manager, Ryan, who was on our last podcast.
Who?
Was able to find this little number for me.
That's actually one I've been trying to figure out. I've got a cart and a manual.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a later release on the Genesis,
and that's one of those they did cardboard and plastic.
Yeah, let me just put it out there. So it's the Jungle Book for the Sega Genesis, and if it's a Disney game, generally, it's going to be a good time.
From Virgin. So we're talking Aladdin. This is a David Perry game. Aladdin.
Yeah, so Earthworm Jim, Aladdin. Right, that lineage, those are good games. This game to me is like Aladdin and Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure, sort of like squashed together.
That would make sense because you're in the jungle, outdoors.
It's got a very, very similar feel, and I didn't play this game as a kid, but I played it more recently, like a couple of years ago. and I thought it was really, really good. I had a fun time with it, and I could tell it was made really well. It's got that same animation, like the Disney animators animation, and it's a fairly cheap game. It can't be more than $20.
Yeah, that's the thing is like it's like I probably just have to get a complete copy and just like just a case. It's like no one's listing a case because it's not worth it because the game's only like $15.
Yeah, I know. So I actually have a loose cart now, and I've got this complete copy, but it's pretty rough. I'm okay with that.
It doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like your Sonic 3D Blast, but it's also not as
it's not as
important in the Sega lineage. But this is another one that's made by Ballistic.
Is that when they threw the sticker on after the fact?
Yep. So
hey, we want some credit on this.
Very, very well. Yeah, I mean, their games.
There was another game where they had to do that too, where it was Ballistic.
Toy Story. Remember?
They put a sticker on the back of it
on my Toy Story copy. Yep. Remember we were looking at yours.
I think there's another one too.
I'm sure there
Ballistic had to put a sticker on it after the fact.
I'm sure it's Accolade.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I own it. It's like you could tell like with the box, like the margins, like it's thicker on one side than another, so the pictures are like it's almost like crooked a little bit.
Oh. It wasn't a straight cut.
I mean, this is a 94 game, but this probably came out in 97, this copy. When the Genesis 3 came out.
Oh, that was one of the games that came out.
Like this is Majesco. So this is a Majesco release.
Oh, so that's
versus a Genesis release.
Oh, okay.
Like a Sega release,
That's why there's two versions. There's the one in the plastic case.
And remember, a lot of the Disney games came out a second time.
Yeah.
When the Genesis 3 came out, when Majesco started manufacturing it.
So that one has the black and white manual as opposed to the color manual.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it does.
That's why.
Yep, black and white manual.
Yeah.
Which, if you can, for a game like this, try to get the original copy with the hard case. I mean, if you get this one, it's fine. I'm perfectly content.
I mean, it's not like it's a high price game.
No, but if you can get it like that, it's you got the full color outside of the manual.
You don't have to worry about
the hard shell is going to be good for a long time. So that's kind of where I see that. But anyways, anyway, you can play the Jungle Book. This is another one if you're starting a Genesis collection. Fairly cheap to get into and very, very high quality, in my opinion.
Very high quality.
So with that, we'll take a quick break here. We'll go to a commercial, and when we come back, we're gonna have our phone call conversation, dial-up internet rendezvous with CrossFace Gaming. When we come back, enjoy the commercial. We'll be back in just a moment.
After these messages, we'll be right back. Hey now kids, it's a brand new beat. A great new toy you can wear on your feet. It's skip it. Do run, do jump, do hop, hop. Skip it. A skipping and a jumping and a bop, bop. But the very best thing of all, there's a counter on this ball. Maybe you can beat your very best score. Maybe you can jump a whole lot more. Skip it. Bet you're gonna love it. Skip it from Tiger Toys.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We are set and ready to have our conversation with our repair guru, Marcelo, a.k.a. CrossFace Gaming.
Oh,
but
and?
First
and?
Turbo Duo Game and a Half would like to ask you guys a question.
Oh, and guys, if you like the commercial, I don't know what it is, but if you like the commercial, tell us in the comments, okay?
Yeah,
thumbs up.
And that's a great point, Sal. Speaking of that,
if it actually happened.
Yeah, well, if you guys are enjoying the show, please give us a like, and if you'd be so generous, and a subscribe would really, really help us to acquire our landing page. And if you have any questions or comments, always hit us up on Instagram, the Turbo Duo, and on our email, the Turbo
Put
Duo.
double thumbs up.
Like 2 thumbs up, like the
Turbo,
phones.
Yeah, the Turbo Duo at gmail.com. And we would love to hear from you guys, and all the support is great if you could help us out. So with that, I think it's time to learn a little bit more about modding, saving, creating, and keeping up with the aging nature of our hobby. Of course, these systems that we play are now getting to be 30 and almost 40 years old, Trent. When you think about the NES being from 1985, we're only 3 short years
Jeez.
3 short years away from that. So, of
That's
course,
nuts.
having individuals in this hobby that actually enjoy the idea of repairing and saving this old hardware and this old software is what kind of keeps the dream alive for us. So we really appreciate people like Marcelo, and so we thought it would be nice to bring somebody on that kind of tells their story a little bit about how they're able to do these types of things and serve the community. So we're excited to have Marcelo. Trenton, could we try to bring Marcelo on the line?
Let's try and beam him up.
Let's do it.
Carl. As the phone rings, waiting on the other line. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hello, my friend. This is Trenton from the
What's
Turbo
going on, man?
Duocast. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm honored to be on the Turbo Duo podcast.
It's an honor.
That's right, man. It's an honor. It's a privilege. I'm not sure what I did to deserve it, but I appreciate it.
You did just
Come on,
enough.
Just barely enough. You had like 10 other people that weren't available. You're like, oh shit, we're gonna call.
Yeah, we called like 9 other repair and modders, and then you were the 10th one on the list.
As long as you're okay with that.
That's cool. Yep, that works for me.
So you had enough time tonight to put down the soldering iron and talk on the phone, or are you working on a system right now as we speak?
No, I'm not working on anything. I should be working on one of your guys', but no, that's okay.
Oh yeah, because you got a ColecoVision to work on and the SNES Junior.
That's right.
Yep, and then we're definitely hustling with that. And the 32X too. It's interesting. I think the 32X. I think it's just dirty, to be honest. I could probably just clean it, and it's probably gonna work fine. But
Oh, really? The one that said wasn't working?
yeah, that one. For most consoles, anything that's like not working, it's kind of like the same way as if you guys were like a doctor, right? You would want to use like the least invasive thing possible first. So taking something apart and cleaning is probably the least invasive thing you could do. So my guess is just cleaning it and like taking all the cables and reseating it. That basically that'll end up fixing it. But yeah. So what are you guys doing tonight? What are you guys talking about?
We're talking about you.
Yeah, this is all about you, Marcelo. This is Sal here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Sal. So Sal, are you Italian?
Yes, I am of the Italian persuasion.
Yeah, he's the most Italian, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, then you have to say Marcello. You have to pronounce it the right way, man.
Marcello.
Marcello. There you go. Now you got it. Now you got it.
Well, I was kind of honored. I felt like I was a part of your TikTok where you discussed cleaning out the PS4. And for all of you guys listening, so Marcelo actually did a little TikTok video. That's where he kind of lives as CrossFace Gaming with a lot of his content. So go support Marcelo and CrossFace Gaming at TikTok. But just watching you sort of dissect my PS4 that, I've got 6 cats and 2 dogs, and you could tell that there's just like years of just dust and grime and skin and just obliteration.
One of the comments was like I'm not sure, like did that guy like snort next to like a wood stove or something like that? Like that was dusty as hell.
That's the crazy thing is that I think that's probably more normal than not, where you have just a regular domestic setting, and if you have some pets or something like that, there's just dirt and grime and stuff that gets sucked in from that fan and just clogs everything up. And that's the thing is, like, we took vacuum cleaners to the edge of it and we're cleaning it on a regular basis, but if stuff gets in there, there's really nothing you can do. It'll just live inside of the system, and I just didn't feel confident about and I've opened up systems before, but I did not feel confident about opening that.
No, and it's something about the PlayStation 4. It's just got really poor ventilation or whatever. But like a lot of them look like that on the inside. I was just busting your chops about that. But yeah, most PS4s look like that on the inside.
Yeah, no, it's
and they all sound like a jet engine.
Yeah, not like the George Foreman grill PS3, but definitely very, very loud, especially when you play one of the more recent. Like if you put God of War in there, the thing just like you think it's going to be an aircraft carrier and take off. But no, we appreciate that. So, part of the interview here is just, spurred on by all the work that you've done with Trenton and his stuff, and some of the stuff you've done. I'm really excited about some of the future things that you're going to be doing with because my ColecoVision's been sitting in the basement, and I look at it and I say, ugh, not today, because the RF just doesn't work well, and the power switch isn't working great, and so it's a way to boost up some of this some of this old technology, which we were just talking about before we called you. Is we're getting to the point where the NES is almost 40 years old, and without people like you who are diving into this this hobby in a way of being available to restore it and repair it and allow that dream to live on, these things are just going to die and fall away.
Exactly. Yeah, so I will plug, I will see if I can get you guys a link. So basically, me and a couple other console repair people, basically, we have a whole Discord put together. It's called the Console Savers, and it is exactly for that. It's exactly for that reason. So if there's a console that obviously can be saved, we definitely want to do that. So all of us share, different information, different ideas and stuff like that. So obviously, as anybody who's watched my content for a little bit knows, I'm one of two Atari Jaguar people, pretty much left. But yeah, so other really just obscure and really rare crap, whatever. Yeah, there's not that many of them. So yeah, somebody definitely has the same thing with NES, same thing with Super Nintendo. And it's weird, kind of looking at a lot of these consoles now, the Super Nintendos, those seem to have more that are quote unquote unrepairable without taking something from a donor board versus something like the ColecoVision, the Atari 2600. It's interesting that as we get more modern, some of those things are actually harder to fix. Some of these older consoles that are a lot less moving parts, stuff is actually readily replaceable. Whereas a lot of the newer consoles like a PS4, Xbox, Xbox One X, there's been situations where the HDMI goes out, you will replace the one actual chip for the HDMI. And less than 2 years later, you end up replacing the whole thing over again. You're like, what's going on? Whereas your ColecoVision powers up fine, and it's 40 years old?
It's 40 this year. It's 40 years old. I believe that came out in '82.
Oh, that's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
Crazy. I had one as a kid. I was it brought back memories. I remember we had it, and then we didn't. I had one of those Italian moms that I don't know where it went, and she probably threw it out. So
right.
I don't know where it went, but I was oh yeah, ColecoVision. I was pumped to see it.
Oh, cool, man. Well, enjoy it as much as you can before you send it back. Take your time with it and play. I would have sent you more games if I knew that was the case.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
So, before we kind of dive into the conversation a little bit further, tell us a little bit more about how you got involved in the whole kind of, I'm not sure if you mod as well. I think you do, of course, if you're going to do some of my stuff that I'm talking about. But how did you kind of get into the whole idea of repairing and modding consoles? Where did that kind of come from?
Gotcha. So in terms of doing repairs and mods, a lot of it actually started. I picked up an old Buck Hunter. It was an old arcade machine, and I'm talking arcade CRT. It was one of those Deer Hunter things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the guy told me it quote unquote plays blind. Basically, you can hear the sound, but you're not able to hear anything, or you're not able to see anything. And that was not the case. So I ended up taking that apart, fixing it, all that good stuff. And the nice thing about if you get into arcade restoration, it's a little bit easier in terms of a flow chart. You can say all right, try this first. All right, do you actually have quote unquote neck glow, right? So can you see the back of the CRT? Can you see the actual neck of the tube? Can you see that glow, right? So you kind of follow this whole flow chart. So that kind of got me into it a little bit, and then basically, I started expanding my collection, and there just was a lot less competition for broken stuff. And it was funny. One of the first things I tried to fix actually was it was a Sega CD Model 2. I had no idea what I was doing in terms of the soldering iron. So my brother-in-law, he's an electrical engineer, and I was I don't know what's going on. I ended up ripping a pad, and I would literally I'm ashamed to admit to say I rinsed the soldering iron I rinsed it by under the sink. It was hot. You're not supposed to do. He's what are you doing? I'm it was hot. I don't know. Is that what you're supposed to do?
You took a capacitor off, or you said a pad?
Yeah. So basically, if you have a Model 2, there's a fuse. I did a video on that. I actually I think last week. And it's a fairly simple replacement. Basically, you end up taking off the old fuse, you end up putting a new Pico fuse back on, and then you can pretty much get it up and running. So if you have a Sega CD Model 2 that doesn't power on, that's like 95% of the time it's actually that. But that was like my first repair. I had no idea what I was doing. So that was like the first console that basically I tried, and then little by little, I just ended up just like picking up more stuff and all that good stuff. Because again, if you put an ad out on like Facebook, or Facebook will put you in marketplace jail if you do that now, if you're not selling anything. But like, Craigslist, hey, I'm looking to buy broken consoles. And if you just do that, you just kind of dive into it a little bit, and then you obviously learn more and more. And then I watch a lot of retro RGB. Have you guys ever heard of My Life in Gaming on YouTube?
Oh, that's how I created my whole video game setup in the game room. So My Life, that's the whole idea of me sending you the SNES is, we've got an original model SNES that I use, but I just never quite as crisp as I want it to be. And I picked up an SNES Junior, and I saw their videos, and I've been, I got a FrameMeister because of them, and the way that they set everything up and how the wires go where they go. That was my, the SCART. I have a SCART switcher and all that stuff. All that came from My Life in Gaming, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, just kind of like any kind of like mom and pop thing. And like a buddy of mine's like, hey, I think he wanted me to fix. I think it was a laser. Was it a PS1 or maybe I fixed like PS2. And then same thing. So he was really into like RGBing everything. So he has like a SCART modded TV, and he's like, hey, can you RGB mod my 3DO? And I was like, I've never done anything under the microscope before. He's like, if you break it, it's no big deal. He's like, whatever, no big deal. And then I ended up like doing it, and then I looked it up after the fact, and I was like, it's actually not an easy, it's not an easy mod to do. So progressively ended up doing that. Same thing. I put HDMI in terms of my Dreamcast. Now I do a lot of N64 HDMI mods. Like that one, I did a video a week or two ago, and then like my inbox ended up like blowing up about that. I just
we might have to talk about that.
Yeah,
that might have to be a future little task.
That's not a cheap mod either.
The Ultra HDMI.
Yeah, was it right?
Yeah.
Ultra HDMI.
Are those boards available now?
So you actually have two. So I have a handful of Ultra HDMI hardware 2 kits. So that's the one that you can do RGB, and you can also do HDMI. And then the N64 digital, those ones are completely out of stock. So my personal one, I put in the N64 digital, and then I had a customer, he was like, hey, I bought like the kit, like, I don't know, like probably back in October, and same deal where he's like, well, I was thinking like maybe I could like save a couple bucks, I can install it myself. But I was like, if you want, you certainly can, but if you screw it up, you're going to have to wait Lord knows how many months, like you're going to have to wait whatever in terms of before you actually have a restock. So if you want to do that, so then he's like, all right, talk to the wife there. He sent that over to me, and I did a video on that. And then somebody else was like, hey, I want my thing HDMI, and then like the whole inbox ended up blowing up about that. But yeah, if you want,
like, why is it so expensive? Why
just
emulate?
People get like every time too. Like I'll be like, so you can RGB mod this. Like, that's stupid, whatever. You should just get like a retro pie. I'm like, well, I have that too. It's the same thing.
There's nothing like original hardware though. There's never anything like original hardware. I was at a buddy's playing the Genesis Classic, and it's still not the same. When you play on original hardware and you know what that feels like, you don't want to go back to anything other than that. I mean, that's how I feel, at least.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. And then same thing too. Like I realized like I have a very odd threshold. Like I have a CDI. I had a mod that's RGB. I don't know why. Like there's like 5 games I play on it, but like I want to get the best absolute picture out of that.
Exactly.
But yeah,
for what it can do, exactly. And it's funny that you mentioned the Sega CD as your first project, because the first thing that Trent and I we went in on together was this large Sega set on eBay. It was probably like 2002 or 2003 when things were still cheap. Yeah. And I think it came with like 3 Sega CDs and a bunch of games, and like every Sega CD
we ended up
wasn't working.
Throwing them out or like stepping on them.
Yeah.
Throwing them out.
Well, we didn't. If we had known, listen, Marcel, if we knew then what we know now about the retro scene and like this, how we can actually fix things now, the way that we didn't know when we were younger, we obviously would have kept them. But
that was 20. Yeah, it was like 20 years ago. And then
Okay.
And then didn't you? Speaking of the CDI, was it? Were you didn't you like mod the controller port to use a Super Nintendo controller?
Yeah, so that's actually an open source project. So if there's like something that's like random and like obscure, I pretty much do it. But yeah, so there's a project. If you can solder yourself, you just look it up. It's called SNES to CDI. So basically, you get one of those little like one of those Arduino boards, and you basically just have to cut either an extension cable for a Super Nintendo, or you can take a Super Nintendo controller, you can just wire it in, and that will allow you to do exactly what you said. So you can use a Super Nintendo controller on the CDI.
Just what everyone wants to do.
It's what everybody needs, right?
Well, if you want like the actual like 3-button controller, it's like, I mean, I have one now, but it's like it's $100+ bucks.
I
remember
it being trash too. Like when I had my CDI, it didn't perform.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the best. And most CDIs either don't have the controller, they have like the like big ass like DVD controller, like they have like one
with
of those.
The bulb at the end of it.
Exactly. So it's not really fun to play with that. But yeah, just kind of looking up different projects. But yeah, if there's like a random project I can do, I'll do it. Like I just found out, which I didn't know that. Do you guys have a Super Game Boy?
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah, Super Game. Yeah.
Yeah. So Super Game Boy for the Super Nintendo. Apparently, I didn't know that the Super Game Boy runs about 3% faster versus like a normal Game Boy game.
Didn't know that.
So there's a new mod that's actually out there, and if you're a beginner, it's a really good project to start. Basically, you just need to remove like it's 2 capacitors and 1 resistor, and then you just solder directly on the board, and it actually restores the normal clock. Because if you're playing a game, the audio is going to be a little bit more like high pitch, because the audio is going to be running 3% faster as well. But again, it's just like I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that. I've never had a Super Nintendo until like last year, and again, same reason why I have that now. People wanted me to like fix stuff, so I needed more options to obviously test things. But long story short, it helps support my collection.
Yeah, me
so
too. Me too. We always have to go back and forth on whether things are needs or wants, and I think most of the time they're both.
Exactly.
So you were saying that the Super Nintendo is one of the hardest when it comes to repairs, just to find things, or that things can go wrong. And then what is it about the Super Nintendo that makes it different than say a Genesis?
There's certain models of the Super Nintendo that basically you have a couple. So it's a chip, and you have something called an ASIC, application specific integrated circuit, I think, or something
ASIC,
like that, or no, yeah, ASIC, right? Mm-hmm. So on a lot of the Super Nintendos, one or both of the PPUs go bad, and the only way to get that
picture
ASIC
processing unit.
Oh, you are on point. Exactly.
We got to define it for the people, you know.
Exactly. So basically, 1 or 2 of those components goes bad. That component is specific to the Super Nintendo. So the only way to get that is you have to rob that off of the Super Nintendo that has something else wrong with it.
There's no aftermarket parts for that?
No, same thing with like, so for the Atari Jaguar, you have the Tom and Jerry chip. If those go bad, you have to pull that from a donor board. Same thing with the... Exactly.
It's like, and then why even repair it at that point if you just got to get another whole system, right?
Well, if you actually have like the chip on hand. So it worked out. Somebody, which that was the first time I ever had he's like, yeah, it makes like a grinding noise. And then I get his Jag CD and the thing like whistled. I was like, I've never seen that before. So I was able to take a bunch of parts from a donor board that basically had a problem with so it's called the Butch chip on the Atari Jag CD. But I was able to take parts from that, and I was able to go and obviously swap things one by one. And same thing, like if there's something that like I don't know, I ask like other repair people. My brother-in-law's an electrical engineer. He's been really helpful throughout the years. So basically, 4 or 5 years ago, I knew like nothing, and then little by little, you kind of build up that confidence and stuff that's like easy. So if you do like a N64 RGB mod, if you're just going to do just normal N64 RGB, if you flip over N64 and it says NS1. That's one of the easiest mods to do. We've been through
that. Yeah, we've been through that with the NS1 model, because that's my 64. But I'll tell you what, even through the FrameMeister with RGB on an OLED screen, it still doesn't look great. Like I kind of want the Ultra HDMI. That's kind of why it piqued my interest when I heard you mention that, because it's on. If you do that on a CRT, it looks pretty good.
Oh yeah.
But because I've got a SCART to component transcoder, so I can play that on my Trinitron, but on the OLED, it just, even through the frame. I mean, the FrameMeister is great, but it can only do so much, and the 64, it's got that softness, those filters, and it just doesn't look amazing.
Yeah, it's got like that Vaseline over. And then same thing. So you just mentioned about having like a Trinitron. That's the other reason to like restore like all these old consoles. Like, if you want to do, I'm a sucker for light gun games. If you want to do like light gun games, yeah, like you have to have a CRT to do that. Yeah, I do the Sinden thing, which I will say, if somebody asks me like something software related, it takes me like 5 times as longer. So for example, to actually mod the SNES to CDI controller, for me to solder the wires is like 5-10 minutes, right? Like tops. For me to figure out how to program the stupid Arduino thing, I probably spent 45 minutes before I actually figured out like how to do that. I'm like, I'm an idiot. Whatever.
Oh, is that the like new light gun? It was on was that the, I'm assuming you've seen Metal Jesus had put it on his channel.
Yeah. So I have it. It was the exact same thing. So like I would put it. Yeah. So I would put it on I put it on the big screen. It would work fine. I swapped the monitor on my arcade machine. I put the Sinden light gun in there. And then it wasn't working. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then it's just a pain in the butt, because you have to like adjust the settings for like every single game in MAME. And then it turned out that the light gun wasn't working inside my wasn't working inside the arcade machine, because it had just like a slightly bad like firmware, so it was like really sensitive in terms of like how the light was.
Yeah. But
again, like all that crap that you got to like mess around and play with, and versus like, all right, if I want to play like Virtua Cop, I turn on my Sega Saturn, I'm good to go, you know, versus like the Sinden thing. So
Amen
I just like having that for like my kids, because like my kids they want to play on the arcade machine, and you know, like it's fun just to do something like real quick, but the software part, it's such a pain in the butt. Like, it's not plug and play. I'd love for it to be that way, but it's just not.
I'm sure it's getting closer to
his support is great. Yeah. I will say that.
Well, his support is great, and that's good, because you know these Trinitrons, these old TVs, they're not going to last. There's probably less likelihood of those lasting as much as these retro consoles, just because of how much is going into that picture tube, and you know those things go bad. And that's a much more dangerous thing to have to work on, like a TV, where you can literally kill yourself while you're doing it. So, you know, having the ability to eventually one day to be able to play these things on our, you know, flat screens or whatever would be a good thing, which is why the retro community is so awesome, and how we've got these, you know, it just seems like it's exploding even more. We thought that, you know, after a few years it was going to die down, but it just seems to be growing and growing. And even through like the pandemic and everything, it's just like the hunger for all these things, it just gets more and more and more and more. You wonder when the bubble's going to break, but I don't know if it is.
Yeah, same thing. I've been saying that for a while. Yeah, you know, prices will go down, things will go down, whatever. I really don't see it. Like, it'll come down a little bit, but you're never going to get like to 2009. You're never going to get to like 2010 levels, or if you aren't, it's obviously going to take a while. Like, there's certain things that like people don't necessarily care about as much anymore. Like, if you look at Atari or like ColecoVision, or if you look at like Intellivision, like you can actually pick up most of those games fairly cheap, but like I don't think we're gonna hit a point where you're gonna be getting, you know, Super Mario Brothers 3 for like $2 at like Funko Land anymore. Like those days are long.
Oh no, that's gone. That day is gone. I think, you know, the retro collector, you know, there's more people. Like I was talking to Trent earlier today, because my little guy had a basketball game at the basketball, or the church, and you know, all these guys that I'm seeing there, all these dads, you know, they kind of know a little bit about, you know, what I do and my hobby and everything. And these guys are just like hungry and thirsty they want to play NBA Live 95 and like, you know, Gunstar Heroes, and like they've got these old memories. And so when you get this demographic of people who now they have the resources, right? People have real jobs and they're able to make some money, where when we were kids, we weren't able to do that. And you're going back and you're getting you have a finite resource of these games and trying to get them, or these consoles. It's only going to drive that price up. And you see what happened during the pandemic, where everybody was home and they're like, you know, I want to get back into my old hobby, and just what happened to the prices there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, exactly what you said before. Like, there's something rolling out new like every single week. So like you have the OSSC, you have the retro sync. We have so many more options to play these retro consoles on modern TVs. And again, you can still get like a CRT for free. Like you can still pick those up.
I'll tell you what though, they're starting to charge for them. You go down to like the local game store, and they're charging, they're starting to charge $20-$25 for a nice CRT. So that's the other thing too, guys, is like if you're out there and you see a CRT on the side of the road, pick it up, see if it works. Hold on to it, store it if you can, because I'll tell you what, there's nothing like playing a light gun game like Virtua Cop or Lethal Enforcers or House of the Dead 2 or one of these games, even the PS2 ones like Time Crisis, Time Crisis 3, all Vampire Knight,
Crypt Killer.
Oh yeah.
Crypt Killer is better than
I haven't played that one. I have it. Like, actually, I'm ashamed to admit that, and this is why I need to update my collection. Like, I have a little spreadsheet. I have 2 copies of it, but I haven't played it yet.
Oh yeah,
nice.
2 copies
for the Sega Saturn, of course, right?
I have it for the PS1.
I figured not, but I said, well, maybe I'll try. Maybe we'll try. Marcelo, what's the would you say is the hardest mod like or repair that you've done that you actually got to work?
So I'd say working on the 3DO RGB mod is actually the hardest. So if you can do the 3DO RGB mod, you can do pretty much any kind of like HDMI mod. So basically, if you look at N64 digital, you look at like the Sega Dreamcast HDMI mod. Those ones, like, it requires fine pitch soldering. For the most part, you can do it under the microscope. You might be able to do it without it if you have some kind of magnification. You have like a little, like, you can use your phone to zoom in, and you can use Plus to do that. But on this 3DO, it just has a lot more like finer pitch pins. So the pins are a lot smaller, basically, in between. Other one, just in terms of time, and I haven't done those because I haven't had as much time, and I'd like to experiment on one myself. If you do the PS1 digital as well, so that one you got to run like a million wires, and again, what a lot of people do, like how they make it look all nice and pretty. So when you're doing all like your wire management, what they do is you run the wire, and then you get like nail glue, and then you glue it down. And then you get the next wire, you run it all nice, you run it right next to it, and you do the same thing. And it's just very, very time consuming to actually go and do that. But if you were going to do like the PS1 HDMI, if you were to do if you do any mod that's like HDMI, like, yeah, it's going to be really, really difficult. Difficult consoles to work on. A good question. Probably anything modern. So same deal. If your Xbox HDMI thing goes out, to replace the HDMI port. If you have the right tools, you can do it. But I would not make that the first mod. And then same thing with like PlayStation 4. If you mess up the actual like port itself, and again, those are things that really annoy me about modern consoles right now. Like, I had a customer, it was a grandma, and she's like, "Oh, I bought my son's like PlayStation 4, and like it doesn't read disc or anything like that." And you think like, all right, it's just really dirty and stuff like that. And basically, trying to explain to an old lady that, like, all right, so the problem is, so there's a chip, it's called the Renesas chip. And on that model, that chip only belongs to that PlayStation 4. So
really?
Even if I could, yes. So that one, it's actually married to the board. So certain models, you can basically take that chip off of the actual drive board and you can swap it. On this one, it's not on the drive board. That chip is on the motherboard, and it's married to the board. So that's a situation where like you're trying to explain to this like 7-year-old grandma, be like, well, I know exactly what's wrong with it. It's this thing right here. Well, can you take it out and put it in a new one? No. Why? Because Sony sucks. Like, and it's like trying to explain that to her. It's like, well, I don't understand. Like what do you mean? I was like, that chip is married to that board. Like forever and ever, amen. That chip is married to that board. There's nothing you can do about it. So on the positive side, basically his PS4, I guess it was a slim model. I think it turned into a PS4 all digital. So again, it wouldn't play disc because of that. You can't swap the drive.
Yep.
So there's pretty much nothing you can do except obviously download games on that. But that's something too where like that's a relatively new console. So that's the part that's obviously most frustrating. Modern stuff, a lot smaller stuff is like really, really compact. And then you end up having to like upgrade your tools. So like an Xbox like One X, same deal. If you have to replace the retimer chip, it is just like, it takes a ridiculous amount of heat to get that chip off the board. It's just really annoying. It's really, really tiny little chip to actually do. It's easy to knock off like a smaller component and stuff like that. So more modern stuff ends up being a lot more complicated.
It's crazy to think that these modern systems are failing as fast as they are. It's like, when we were kids and we had our Segas or our Super Nintendos, it was like nothing could break those things, You pour some Coke in it and it wouldn't do anything, just like almost indestructible. At least it seemed, at the time. But these maybe it's just cheaper components that they're using now, even though they're more high powered.
Sometimes you have like smaller components. You don't have the same like ventilation, a lot more like moving parts. But
heat.
It is possible. Yeah, you have a lot of heat with that. But like stuff like that, they're not really planning on keeping an Xbox like One X forever. Like that was never really like the intention. So I mean, hate to say, but like times have changed, So, but stuff like that, like they obviously should know that. Like, so for example, on the PS4, there's a part of the board that's called the South Bridge, and on some of the old PS4s, like all those are going. And then it's funny, a buddy of mine, Repair Legion, same deal. He's like replacing it on the PlayStation 5. He ends up having to like reflow the solder. So you have a bunch of like you have
5?
Yeah, already. I was like, seriously, already? How's that even possible?
Yeah.
But yeah, you have a lot more heat. The solder like cracks, it breaks, and again, anything in terms of that connection, it just ends up breaking. The other thing that ends up being an issue is that there's not as much documentation for newer stuff versus like older stuff. Like older stuff, you can pull the schematics, you can say like, all right, like so I had one where it wouldn't output video over like composite. And you can pull the schematics. You can say, all right, so there is a video chip right here. Well, let's just try taking out that chip. Let's try popping in a new one. Okay, it works. You're like, all right, well, that obviously makes sense. Whereas a PlayStation 4, they're not publishing their schematics anywhere for obvious reasons. They don't want they don't want anybody stealing their stuff. But to back to answer your question, modern stuff is a lot harder to work on. It's just a lot smaller pieces. It tends to break without as much documentation, and there's just a lot of smaller things that basically you end up having to test. And then if you want anything with HDMI on a red N64 is the most common right now. I think they're going to roll out another version of the Dreamcast HDMI mod, but anything HDMI is typically an expert installation.
So a couple of questions or comments in relation to what you said. So with the Dreamcast, I just for Christmas got one of the Bahar Bros Gecko boards and plugged that in, and I think that looks phenomenal. Just pass through the FrameMeister into the OLED. Is that, would you consider that a pretty good option if somebody doesn't want to mod it for HDMI?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If you can get it to 480p and you can output that, absolutely. And I used to do that as well. Actually, I still technically do. So I have a Dreamcast that I have HDMI modded. I use it on the flat panel, and then in the back I either alternate. I'll put the Dreamcast on one of those like old VGA monitors, like one of those old computer monitors, or I will do the Bahar Bros, and then I will run that to one of my PVMs, or I'll run it to one of my CRTs. Like,
nice.
Yeah, he's got
like
I've seen his setup on like TikTok and everything. It's it's extravagant.
The PVM is a holy grail.
It's completely obnoxious.
Listen, but we get it on this channel. I mean, we understand what it's about. On the PlayStation systems, most of the PlayStation systems have a vertical orientation that you can do as an option. What do you recommend on PlayStation systems in general? Do you recommend vertical or horizontal?
On the PlayStation 5, I probably would recommend vertical, because I think most of their ads actually have it that way. It's probably a little bit better ventilation.
Good, because that's how I have mine set up right now, and I don't want to put it horizontal because it'll take up too much space on the media center.
Yeah. And then same thing with like the Xbox Series X. You can put that on its side, but a vertical orientation actually allows for a lot more airflow. And a lot of people too, like when they have problems with their consoles, it's again that you get the whole IKEA setup, all that good stuff, but there's like no ventilation, so they might even have consoles stacked on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like a PS3, I would put that horizontally. I wouldn't put that vertically. I'd allow it to have enough ventilation on either side, and I want to have ventilation. In the back. But like PS2, as long as it has space around it, it should be fine. PS2 doesn't really get too hot. Nintendo Wii U, all that stuff. Like it's not really going to get too hot. But as long as you have enough area around it and you're cleaning it, it really shouldn't matter in terms of the PS2 versus horizontal or whatever. The only other thing to consider, and that would be if you use it a lot. If you're doing it vertically, inserting the disc in and out, you have a little bit more gravity, obviously pulling down over the years than versus if you just lay it horizontally. When it ejects the disc in and out, you don't have as much force pulling down on it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That does make sense. So the question that I wanted to ask you, of all the questions that I'm asking you here, relates back to me personally, sort of in a way, but it's good for anybody who wants to get into it. So, I've got a soldering iron. I still haven't pulled it out of the box. I hate to say that, but I get this nervous feeling about kind of getting into the solder game because I've pulled apart an NES. I've replaced the 70-pin connector. I've actually pulled pins back to fix the original connector. I've replaced a DVD drive inside of a Wii. I've done some of those things, but in terms of soldering, that's the stuff that I kind of am reticent to kind of get into. And you may have done a video on this. I'd love to see it if you haven't, or if you could put it together, some kind of video on like how to kind of get started if you'd be so willing. But what do you what's the advice that you would give someone who wants to kind of get into the mod repair game and kind of get started in it? What would you recommend? How would you get started in that?
The easiest thing, if you just would want to put out an ad and just say, "Hey, I'm looking for broken comps." You can even say that too. I'm trying to learn or whatever.
I've got them. I've got a broken Genesis 2. I've got a couple broken Game Gears. So
every Game Gear will actually need to have will need to have all the caps replaced. Every single one.
That's the ones the ones I have. That there's, I think 3 of them. One of them is yours, the blue one.
Yeah.
Are the capacitors? You could tell because the screen is all screwed up and the sound doesn't work.
Yep, exactly. So every single one of those. You could start with one of those because you can get those actually fairly cheap. But if you already have the broken console, it's probably the easiest thing to do. And if you wanted to build up that confidence in terms of a soldering iron, just replacing batteries on like a Pokemon game or like or not even that. If there's like a Game Boy game that you don't care about and has like a save, I would swap the batteries on that. And the one mistake I will say that I made is that I looked at videos when I was learning. So for example, for the Sega Genesis CD Model 2, I looked at a video on what to do in terms of replacing the fuse, right? And I was like, oh, that's easy. I end up like lifting a pad. You want to look at some videos first, just in terms of basic soldering. So if you look at that and you learn that skill first, that's going to save you so much time in the future. But yeah, I would say an easy thing to do would be swapping batteries on like an NES game, on like a Game Boy game. Stuff like that.
You have to solder for replacing like a battery?
Because there's a little bit of solder that keeps the battery on the system so that it can actually save.
I actually have a few of the Game Boy Advance Pokemon games, but I haven't even really like tested them. And those have batteries in them, right?
Some do and some don't. It depends. There was like a weird like transition point. I don't remember exactly which one. So like it's heartbreaking whenever you find out. I had a Mega Man, I want to say Mega Man 02 I had on the Game Boy Advance, and like I used to lifeguard in the summer, and if it was raining and stuff like that, I would like play I'd end up playing the Game Boy Advance, and I had I had 100% on everything, and then I go to play it, I don't know, whatever, 15 years later, and then everything's gone. It's just devastating, like just that actually finding out.
Just a new opportunity to start over again and play through it again.
It is, but now they have it's called the Game Boy Operator. There's an option now where you can take a Game Boy Color, or you can take a Game Boy Advance game, and you can actually download the save file to your computer, or you can get a save file off the internet of, let's just say, Pokemon Blue. Swap the battery, and then you can flash your old save back on.
I have seen.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I would say that. So I'd look at videos in terms of just how to solder. So for example, for your Sega Genesis, the one that's not working out, is it just not powering on, or does it like kind of turn on and off?
It's
Like,
actually
like
one
if
you
you hold,
gave
like-
me. It's it basically the controller port 1 doesn't work, but controller port 2 works.
Okay, so that one there, I bet if you just clean it, it'll probably work. Or if not, that might be a situation where if you just
Broken
basically
solder
add
joint or
flux.
something.
Yeah, you just add flux and you can heat everything up. And again, I have a buddy of mine. He's up in Canada. His name's Rich, but he goes by Video Game Restoration. And we like to say that like you can't break broken. So if it's broken, like no harm, no foul, right?
Say again.
Yeah, he said if it's already broken, then I mean you
Yeah,
can't
so you
make
can't
it worse.
you can't break broken,
Oh,
right? So you might as well just try it on that. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's true. That's true. So, well, that's good advice.
But yeah, I would start small. So yeah, you have a situation where something maybe not powering on, stuff like that. If you have like a Sega Genesis or like a lot of these older consoles, a lot of times like it'll only work if you hold like the power jack a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a situation where you just need to literally just add a little bit of flux and you could just reflow the solder joint and pretty much it. And that's like a 5-10 minute repair.
Wait, so when you say, I'm not quite sure. So what do you mean when you say flux?
Flux, like the gel that you put on that actually allows the solder and the solder joint to.
Oh, that's what it's. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like the wire,
sap,
like
the sap that
that
you
little
put on
metal spiral wire, right? The thing.
The actual,
No.
actual orangish sap that kind of comes.
Yeah.
That you can get. It's like a gel.
Okay.
You add it. Some of the wire comes with it inside of the wire.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So,
So you can do either way. So you can get a solder, which is basically the metal. So all you're doing is just chemistry, right? So you're just basically melting metal. So flux helps everything heat up more. It actually helps prevent oxidation. So it's helping everything heat up quicker, and it helps the metal flow to pretty much to where the metal needs to be. But if you have, and that'll be the other thing I would say, don't cheap out on flux and don't cheap out on solder. So if you're just learning and stuff like that, I would get, it's called a rosin core solder,
Mm-hmm.
and I would get a fairly good quality flux. And if you can, there's something called solder braid. So if you want to get rid of all the old solder and you want to put new solder in, I would get a good quality solder braid. So like Super Wick is like a really, really good quality solder braid, and that just basically sucks everything off.
Do you
so
like
a lot
that
of times
better than a solder sucker?
For me, it depends on what I'm working on. No, so I've upgraded, and again, I did exactly that. So you obviously start small. You start with solder wick, you start with solder sucker. So now I actually have a desoldering gun, so it just makes everything quicker.
Okay. Got it. It's crazy, right?
I know, because I've seen his setup. He's got this. It's like you have like this huge, because you showed me it because you just like fixed it, right? Your whole soldering setup, that like huge machine.
Yeah, so it's called a hot air rework station, and it's also a soldering thing. I just fixed that one. I'm gonna sell that. So I have now a better quality hot air station, and then I have a better quality soldering iron as well. I'm just waiting on the tips. I was putting that off for a little bit because the soldering iron that I wanted, all the quote unquote like tips for it, like basically you have like either something with a hook, something with like a chip, but basically what you use to actually like heat up all the points. It's different. You have different tips depending on what brand you have. And I was like, I don't really want to like have to like, buy all new tips for that, because it actually gets pretty pricey, but it's a write off, so it's fine. But yeah, I just upgraded that, and I'm gonna end up selling the other one. But you don't need to have like a crazy, if you're just fixing stuff on your own and you're not doing like HDMI, you're not doing stuff like that, you can just get like a basic setup. But if you get something that can do hot air too, you can get that for like $125, $150 on Amazon. You can actually get yourself a fairly good quality station that obviously should float you until you get a little bit better with that. But I wouldn't go nuts. But where I would spend the money, I would spend money on good flux, and I would spend the money on good solder. So solder that has like rosin in the core. And then same thing, I would spend money on a good solder wick, like Super Wick. So you can kind of decide like where you wanna spend the money. But other stuff, it doesn't really matter. Like the soldering iron, like it doesn't have to be anything crazy like that. Like you can get by with a $15, like $20, like Ace Hardware deal, and you can also repair a lot of things that way.
Yeah, that's actually like, I think I picked up one like a couple years ago because when I started to like resell stuff, like a lot of like electronic stuff, you'd find it, and then you'd open the case up, and then like the batteries would just be completely corroded. So like I'd end up like taking some certain things apart, and then you'd see like a wire came off the solder. So I just kind of got like a $20 cheap one just to be able to like put the cord back on and just make sure it works.
Yeah.
Because like so many battery operated things, they leave the batteries in, and it's just completely corroded and everything's rusted out.
So what you're saying,
like RC cars, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Like you just solder it back, really easy to do. Yeah.
So what you're saying is once you get into it, it's really not that big of a deal.
No, yeah, and again, there's plenty of like yeah, and again, you have plenty of like supportive people and obviously all that good stuff. And again, it's just like anything else. Like it's a skill that you can like pick up. And now we're in a really good spot. So I really like. I'm sure if you've seen my have you ever seen Voltar's videos?
Who?
Voltar.
Lord
Is
Voltar.
he the one who made the amp for the Super Nintendo?
He did. Yes, that's the guy.
Okay, yeah.
So he does a lot of videos on like basic soldering and like techniques, what to do if you have like a solder bridge
cool.
or something like that.
He's on YouTube?
Yeah, he's on YouTube. Okay. I wouldn't watch it whenever the kids are around. It's kind of weird. Like my wife's like, "What are you watching?" Whatever. Like he'll throw in like a lot of like different like sexual innuendos and like soldering videos.
All right.
I'm into it.
Yeah, my wife wouldn't be too happy about that if that's going on. So I'll have to watch. That'll have to be when everybody goes to sleep.
Yeah, he calls solder. He calls the T1000 juices, stuff like that.
The juice is flowing. So I was just gonna ask. So how many? So I know you're like TikTok. Like a lot of times you post one, they'll get like thousands of views. Are you getting like a bunch of requests from TikTok, or how many systems are you like, or repairs are you doing in a week, or do you take like 2 or 3 at a time, get those, and then get to the next ones, or like how does that work?
It depends, but yeah, every week now, and that's just like anything else. Like you end up having to like filter that stuff, but I would say probably like a dozen every week coming in, and some stuff like it's actually fairly basic stuff. Where I'll get people doing exactly what you're doing, where they end up sending me like 5 or 6 different things. So like right now, So I have your ColecoVision that I need to do the RGB mod. I have an Intellivision that somebody wants to do a composite mod. I have the 32X. I have a Game Boy Advance SP that not only like it wasn't like powering on. Like if you hit like the right button or if you hit the B button, like anywhere close to the center of it, it would end up like turning off. But then I was like, all right, well, take it apart, try cleaning it, and as he was taking it apart, like it just became so brittle, it ended up like breaking. So but I would say on average, it's like 10 to 12, like a week, depends on obviously what other people want. And then on the side, I'm trying to do a lot more, stuff where I can just sell stuff that's obviously pre-did, but it ebbs and flows. So if I do a Game Gear video, that's pretty much the only request I get for weeks. I did the N64 digital. I'm getting a bunch of requests for that. But yeah, on average, it's like 10 to 12 a week that I have like mail-in requests. And then I'd have other people who are around, like my buddies that, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? But they're also running out of stuff to obviously mod. And that's kind of what's happening with me. Like I've kind of run out of my own stuff to do. So I'm like, hey, you guys want something done? I got time,
That's great, man. And then I just saw it because you think you just mentioned it. You had just did like your first repair on a Virtual Boy, right? Not fairly recently. And all of a sudden you get like 8 more.
Yeah, so exactly. So that was the first one I did in a while. So that, and again, like that's just how much like I like the gaming community. So I never did a Virtual Boy until last year. So a buddy of mine, he goes like, "Hey, I had 2 Virtual Boys. Like one isn't like what?
It's like who has a few Virtual Boys?
Well, the same thing. He's got like 6 Wonder Swans. All right, so good example. So after your video came out, right, a guy's like, hey, I have a couple Atari Lynx. I was like, all right, cool. How many do you got? He's got 6. I'm like, who has 6 Atari Lynx?
They don't even.
There weren't 6 games for the Atari Lynx.
but like same deal. So like then it's just like anything else. Everything like ebbs and flows. But the dude with the Virtual Boy, he had two, and the first one he's like, yeah, it doesn't power on, or I'll play for a little bit and ends up like turning off, right? And it was something as simple as basically he had a little bit of corrosion on the battery terminal, like basically for that battery pack that goes on the controller.
Yep.
Right. And I was like, well, that one's fine. The other one, you actually have the lens. Why don't I just go ahead and fix that for you? And again, if I could do like the Dreamcast HDMI, doing that is not very hard at all. And then I did both of them for him. He's like, all right, you can keep one. I was like, shut up. Like,
wow.
Like I was like, yeah. So I took a Virtual Boy as payment, and then I did that one. And then someone else is like, hey, my Jag CD doesn't work. I was like, sure, no problem. And then he goes, yeah, the only thing I have left is like a Virtual Boy. Do you work on that? I was like, I literally just did one last week. Yeah, no problem. So I have a Virtual Boy and a Jag CD coming in next week. And then I'm going to have to open up pre-orders again. So I do the rapid fire mods for the Atari Jaguar, which doesn't make sense.
For your favorite game, so Raiden.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
To have rapid fire.
For Raiden, yeah, that's one of my favorite shoot 'em ups. So.
Oh yeah, well, you definitely have to do that then. But like that's the situation too, where like I'm like, all right, no one else will do it, I'll do it. So like there was a guy in Australia, and he had the mod boards and all that good stuff, and I bought one off of him, and I sent him a message that, hey, it works great, I really like that. And he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Would you consider like doing this? And like, would you consider doing this? I was like, sure. So he sold me all of his stock, and I end up like doing that. So I have to do a run of, I think I have like 20 or maybe like 30 boards left, so I could do another run of like 20 or 30 controllers.
Gotta get on that, Trent. Gotta get on that, Trent.
Yeah.
I will pay for the mod. I will pay Marcelo for the mod to mod that controller. Because and if we can switch gears as we start to wrap up here, Marcelo, and we appreciate your time.
No worries, man.
And make sure we get all the information on your channel and your store before we end here. But tell us a little bit. We when we did our first interview, we asked the same question. I know it seems like we just keep going back to the Jaguar in this channel, which is my favorite system that I love to hate. But tell me, is the Atari Jaguar your favorite classic system? What are and if that is, what are some of your top games on there? And of course, if it's not the Jaguar, that's great tell us a little bit about what your favorite system is.
That's all right. So that's a hard one. So just to collect for and to work on, I'm gonna say the Jaguar, just because it just has just a really neat history behind it. A lot of people love to hate it. It's a very misunderstood console.
Like Mike Tyson.
I would say exactly.
I guess Jaguar, Mike Tyson. You always make that comparison.
Exactly. But I would say in terms of other console, to play, I would probably say the Dreamcast or the TurboGrafx 16. If you look at the libraries for the Dreamcast, for the TurboGrafx 16, they're just really, really solid libraries, right?
Very much, and I'll stop you there because we were talking about the ColecoVision, and it's funny, these I call them transition consoles that kind of bridge the gap between two, where the Coleco is kind of in between like an Atari and a Nintendo, where it kind of does some of those things of that generation, but kind of not. Same thing with the Turbo, where the TurboGrafx it's kind of an 8-bit system, but it's kind of not. It's kind of more like a 16-bit. And the Dreamcast, kind of the same thing. It kind of bridges that gap. Really, really solid library. So I agree with you. But continue. Tell me more. Yeah.
So I would say to play stuff, and you look at the library itself, I would say the Dreamcast, or I would say the TurboGrafx. But just the Jag itself, just because it's just a really diehard community. The people that are really into it, they're still making homebrew games for it.
We interviewed Jeff Johnson of Wave One Games, and we're talking about Jag Zombies 2, which we had a lot of fun with. Nice.
I actually need to play that. I will say I I was when I first picked up the first one, which I guess he fixed that or he threw that in with Jag Zombies too.
Yeah. It's in like a revamped version. I mean, I told him I had never played the first one, so I didn't know what to compare it to. But supposedly he fixed whatever issues were in the first one. I mean, it's not like it's a complex game.
No, it's not. It crashed like 2 out of 4 times. Like when I actually played it. It's a very, very, very short game, and I was like, when I bought it from him directly, I was like, did he flash like an earlier version? And then like you go and you're like, nah, it's just like one dude, whatever. But I fully support any of like the independent people. Actually, I just was playing Another World last night, and like that game was made by like one dude.
Oh, you know? Another World that they made that for Jaguar.
Yeah.
It's so it's out on everything, but like that was made by like one guy, right? So if you look at a lot of the homebrew community, like a lot of it's just like 1 or 2 people, but just the community just is again, it's just a really neat community. And plus, like it's one of the few consoles that you can get the whole library in less than like 70 games if you go Jag and Jag CD. Like it's a very, very small library. It's very doable,
except for
if you can find Atari cards.
I was so mad. I tried getting you guys that one too, and like I was like, oh, there's a deal on eBay, whatever. I'm gonna offer them like $20 less or something like that. Like buy it now, and then 2 minutes later it was gone. I was like, oh, I got greedy.
Have you been to any of the Jag Fests when they've had them?
No, I would love to. So the Jag I got into later. So this is like a non-believable story. So I live in central Pennsylvania. And I got a lot of my retro consoles. I got my Jag at an Amish auction house of all places.
Well, they can have electricity if they make it themselves. So
no, so they are fully online. It's actually ruined now. So they even have like every year they have a man cave auction.
Wow.
So back then they just put their auctions online, and they just started like doing that instead of doing like a live auction. And most of the stuff that like people have nostalgia for, like went for like stupid prices. Like people were spending like $70 on like Sonic the Hedgehog 1 like loose. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
What?
But I picked up, yeah, I know. But I picked up a Jag for like, I want to say it was like 60 or $70, and it had like Tempest 2000. I think it had Wolfenstein 3D. I want to say it had
nostalgia for the Jaguar then.
Yeah, but like that and like Trevor McFur. So like I had that, and like most people were kind of just like sad. I didn't really do anything with it. And then I got most of what I wanted for the Dreamcast. So then I was like, all right, what's next? And then I looked at the library and I saw like how small I was. Like, all right, I can do this. And again, it's kind of like anything else. It's more about the hunt. It's more about the actual like experience.
Right.
So I have just as much fun doing the installs as I actually do like playing the games after I actually mod the console. But
that's what
the
it's
Jag
all about.
itself, exactly. But the Jag itself, it's a very very misunderstood console. People obviously love to hate it.
I still love it, but I also love to hate it. It's a weird conundrum. I feel like I have to go with this because I started with it like a couple of years ago, and I just have to continue it just because.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look, so Atari was, again, if you look at that piece of history, so Atari was the fastest and biggest growing company in the United States. It was the fastest growing American company. It was the fastest growing company, right? So if we look at that now, what would be like the biggest company like in the United States? Tesla, like Amazon, Microsoft. So it's kind of interesting. Apple. So it's kind of interesting to see like, all right, so back then that was like the Apple like of the world, and to see like how quickly like those people obviously fell from grace. And just a very, very like interesting story behind that. So just because of the history, and because I think I met Trenton because of I'm pretty sure I met you because of the Atari Jag. So
yeah, because it was it was in the one of the Facebook groups because you were selling your the memory track cart.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. You want to win. Someone just asked me about that too, which I'm like, and this is how the markets have changed. Like, hey, do you have one? I was like, before I used to have to like bundle that in to get rid of it. Like I think you can't find it.
Because I got my Jaguar like at the end of 2019, and then I think you just I just was the cart. I think it was like $20 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. I didn't charge you enough. I looked at prices now. You owe me another $20. I'm kidding.
No, it's a beautiful thing, and we appreciate what you're doing, Marcelo, and I love the fact that you love the turbo, because Trenton kind of like looks at me side-eyed, like, you know, you like the turbo so much, but it is a really, really special console, and that library is just so good. Like, it's hard to find a turbo game that's not like at least good, if not phenomenal.
Keith Courage, that's the only one. But like, yeah, I have fond memories of like playing like Bonk's Adventure. Yeah, have you ever played Final Last Win?
I haven't, but I know from other people talking about it that it's actually a really, really good game, and it's got like a kind of like an adventure type thing where you're racing against other guys and kind of advancing in a campaign, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, if you lose a race, like your dad gives you like $50 and like, get out there, son. You know, if you win the race, you get like, you know, $200. You level up, and yeah, it's a little bit of like, it's kind of got this like, it's kind of like Pokemon, like where you kind of like have this like overworld, whatever. So it's got adventures, and it's got RPG elements and stuff like that. But that game, Ninja Spirit, is great. But that again, that's something that like we had almost like on accident. I had my sister's boyfriend was like trying to show off, and I think like he's like, I don't want this anymore. He sold that to us for like, I don't know, like $40 when I was like in middle or like elementary school. I was pumped, and like back then, like yeah, like nobody had it. So then you can get.
Is this when the Genesis and Super Nintendo were popular?
Yes.
Okay.
So we had the Turbo graphics only because my sister's boyfriend wanted to get rid of it, and he sold it to us for like nothing. And then the Genesis, it is possible to break it, and that's probably why I actually fix stuff now. It's kind of to make up for lost time. My little brother, like he broke everything, like everything.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought that the Sega Genesis, I don't even know how he did it. He thought it was kind of like an arcade machine. Like you have to put a quarter in to make it work.
Oh,
right?
Man.
So somehow our Sega Genesis stops working one day, and we go to pick it up, and you just hear there was like maybe $8 in quarters in there.
How could you even pick the quarters?
I don't even know how he did it. Like that was the thing too. Like he must have like put it in and like shaked it. Like I don't even know how he got like these coins in there.
Shove them in the vents underneath the system.
I don't even know how he did. Maybe he even unscrewed it. I don't know. But there was like a buttload of like quarters. Like he would like wipe out like my save for Pokemon Blue. Like if you're playing the game and you rip the game out like while you're saving it, like stuff like that. So that's probably why. So if I were to talk to like an actual psychologist, which I probably should, it probably it all goes back to that Sega Genesis. Yeah, like my little brother shoved Lord knows how many coins and quarters inside there. So that's probably why I'm fixing stuff today, because I just have that in the back of my head, but. For somebody who's looking to get into collecting, someone that's looking to kind of grow the hobby, it's a great way to get consoles for less money. There's obviously a lot less competition. It's great to learn that skill. Because again, like, you know, if something else breaks in your house, like my son, his right after Christmas, and again, new stuff breaks quickly. And one of those like Nerf dart guns that's like battery powered. It broke within like 10 minutes, right? And it's like a stupid like wire. I ended up having to like resolder back. So it's not a bad skill to have. It's very useful. But yeah, hopefully that answered all your questions. I know you guys are quite popular. I'm a little bit long-winded. I'm from Jersey, so I talk fast. So I apologize.
No, it's cool, man. We appreciate you and everything you're doing, and taking some time out with us. I think it's been a little bit over an hour, so we will bid adieu. But tell everybody how to find you if if they want to maybe learn a little bit more about what you do, watch some of your videos, maybe get a repair or a mod done. Where should they find you?
Probably the easiest thing, if you just go to CROSSFACEgaming.com, that has links to my eBay store. That has links if you want to pre-order a modded Jag controller. That has links to my
Everyone's
TikTok.
Gonna be lining up for that.
Don't joke about it. I'm sure they're gonna sell out.
I know.
Yeah, well, I was surprised because he's like, yeah, like, do you want the rest? And I was like, how many do you have? I think he had like 80 boards, and I was like, I don't think there's that many people that want that. And the first 40 sold out quickly, and then he ended up doing the last 40 just recently. But yeah, if you go to CrossFaceGaming.com, so I used to wrestle, and I had a really good CrossFace cradle, so that's the CrossFace and CrossFace.
There we go.
And then gaming is just obviously because of gaming. And then if you check me out on TikTok, so everything is basically just CrossFace Gaming. So if you just go to CrossFaceGaming.com, that'll have links to everything. Or if you just check me out on CrossFace Gaming on TikTok.
Gotcha. It's like the Crossface Crippler from Chris Benoit.
Well, we don't like to reference him.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Very good. Well, hey, with that being said, Marcelo, thank you so much for being here with us. Again, we appreciate it, and we'll look forward to more of your content. And we're looking forward to you fixing some of our stuff. I can't wait to get this Coleco, and it's just so haven't been able to play that in a very long time.
So I'll send you the video question. So if you're N64, do you have one of those like fantastic ones?
I do. I have a teal one.
Oh, I'm gonna send you a video. So somebody just had me do it. So it's not only is it HDMI, I ran a bunch of LED lights on the inside. It looks friggin' sweet. So if you have one of those fantastic ones, I can do that for you. I'll send you a video.
Line me up. I mean, just take my money and do it. So that'll be the new the 64 that we have in the big setup, and we'll take the NS1 and we'll use it for the for the CRT whenever we want to game on that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome. Well, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, or you guys need anything in the future, you guys know how to reach me.
Yeah, man, of course. And as far as I know, I'm heading down to Pennsylvania in May, so I might have to stop at retro game stores and maybe meet up at one of those.
Yeah, maybe go to Primanti Brothers and get a French fry sandwich or whatever.
Overrated.
I thought it was pretty good when we were heading through there, but
no.
Well, now we're gonna.
Hey, listen, if you've got a better place or a better place that makes a sandwich like that, we're all ears.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could definitely navigate you guys around here. But cool stuff, man. If you guys need anything, give me a holler. But I will let you go.
Thanks,
right,
Marcel. Have a great night.
Thanks again, guys.
Yep.
Appreciate you. Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Nice.
Really cool guy.
Nice.
Really cool guy.
Really like a solid guy.
Really solid. Really knowledgeable. It's guys like that are keeping the dream alive and then inspiring other people to kind of get into the hobby of maybe modding and repairing, and that's what's going to keep things going. So the more people that we have doing that, the better. The more we're going to keep these things around, but that's where you get all these ultra HDMI mods and all this other stuff that people are getting into to kind of make these old systems available on the new way that we play games and the way our setups are. So
yeah, that's the one I want modded the most is my 64.
With the ultra HDMI.
Oh yeah. I saw his video, like nice and clean with the HDMI.
You send yours, I'll send mine. We'll ship them off. We'll be good to go.
It's not cheap, but it's worth it.
It's worth it. If you're in a 64, it's worth it.
Yeah, because that's like the one. It's like you said. It's like I just had to mod my CDI because I want the best picture, and it's like
I get it.
It's like
I don't get it, but I get it.
It's like the CDI is different, but I'm just saying it's like I don't even want to play my 64 unless it's crisp, unless it's like super crisp and clean. I don't want any blurry pictures.
That's it. I know, man. It's tough booting that thing up and seeing all that just Vaseline on the
because
screen.
it can look better.
Right. If it can look better, I want it to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, any other parting thoughts? I think that was a good way to end the show.
Yeah. And it was like, we'll probably like 30, 40 minutes. It was like over an hour.
Well, it's great because he had a lot to say and a lot to share and a lot about his history. So, anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll keep bringing you more content like that. I think this is going to be the rest of the year. I think we should make it the year of the 64. I think we're already starting on that.
The year of the 64?
We should try to do more 64 games. Yeah, I'm not saying just 64, but
yeah.
Out of the next 10 months, we should do 9 64 games. No, I don't know.
Top, like we just did. Well, we did Cruising.
We got to do GoldenEye.
Right.
That's what I mean. It's an easy list.
Yeah, we got to do Win Back.
Okay. Glover.
Yeah, we're gonna do a whole. Yeah. We're gonna do a 3-part episode on Buck Bumble.
Yeah. Let's not.
Fighter's Destiny, and it just goes on and on and on. Obviously.
All the Dark Rift.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be one of them.
That's actually well. If we were gonna do one, it would be Dark Drift versus Criticom. Like, which is that's actually might not be a bad idea.
Oh man, that would be just a filthy episode. That would be a very hate-filled episode.
Which is worse? Yeah, like which is worse?
Oh boy. All right. Well, hey, we hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. Whatever you're doing, try to game as much as you can.
Whatever you're doing, game more.
That's it. It's always better when you're gaming. Share that with somebody that you love. Be safe, be happy, be healthy. Remember, everything that's good comes from above. And keep it retro. And keep it turbo.